Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's good to have you on the show. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
There's a fair side to the crutches now. I no longer. I didn't have to buy any new shoes for the last few months, which is something really good. I can come in studio with sandals. You know.
And nobody will question
Yeah.
you know. What happened, Dennis?
Well, these are rogue police officers who basically came and told me I'm under arrest. I asked for their ID. They flashed their ID. They bundled me into a car. The only good thing is that between where they lifted me up at the barber shop and where they had parked their car, next to where I'd parked mine as I got the shave, they gave me some time. So I decided to shout and basically say, guys, these guys are arresting me and they're not giving me a chance to call my lawyer. So please just take their details just in case. So they took guys. There was a car wash opposite the barber wash is still there, and there's a salon. So guys came out and took the number plates and stuff, and I think that informed the first reaction on social media for guys to basically try and trace me, family, friends, and just basically the general population on social media. So once I was bundled in the car, they got handcuffs, tied me, took my hands on my back, and blindfolded me immediately. Then they took my phones. Now they couldn't switch off the phone for some reason. So I told them the only way is to use face identity. At the time, I was actually not clocking my phone on face identity, but my strategy was for them to undo the blindfolds. But of course, they declined and instead chose to throw out the phones out. And once they're done with the phones, they got now into my cash. I was going to send mom some Christmas money. It was around Christmas, and that's why I was actually leaving the house to go send mom some money and meet someone. So once they had done that bit, they began a conversation. You know, first on the radio call, the police radio call that was in the car, I could hear them saying, "This is logistics."
So you had cash on you, which they took.
Yes, because I was going to put it on M-Pesa to send to mom who needed some money to prepare for Christmas. So when we got
On the radio call?
Oh yeah, on the radio call. So on the radio call, there was some conversation. You know, whoever was on the other side was telling them, "This is Commander Logistics 1. Can you confirm you have the subject?" And this guy
you heard this?
Yes, this I had.
Okay.
So then they were responding and saying, "Yes, we have him. We have picked him outside Quickmart supermarket, because this barber shop is opposite Quickmart supermarket on Kiambu Road. But one problem, sir." Now the guy reporting, "One problem, sir. Our car is exposed. Please send a car to replace this one." So as we drove, after that radio call, they then asked me, they told me you have to change your political persuasion to meet that of the boss. So at that point, I got my chance to respond and told them, who is this boss? Because, it could be a person who will share a political ideology. They told me, "Utajua." And then they just started kicking me with blows to my stomach, to slaps, and anything physical that they could be able to two on the back. Then there was one in front who was commanding the whole operation, and there was a driver. And they were telling the driver, "Kanyanga kabisa twende," So after some moment, the car stopped. Of course, I didn't know where we are. When it stopped, we waited there for about what I would estimate to be about an hour. And at this point, they were now doing what I would call psychological torture. Open up the boot, close, open up one door, close. One guy leaves, goes, another one comes on this side. It was just some...
All this time, you're still blindfolded.
I'm still blindfolded. I don't know where I am. I'm at the back of the car. I tried things I cannot, that I've only watched in the movies, like, can I go for a short call? Can I get some water? But of course, they declined all those strategies. I tried to engage them in a conversation, and nothing was giving. So at one point, I gave up. These guys only beat me physically. The ones now, the first phase. Then they told me they are moving me from one car to another car. So at that point, when now they got me to this other car, they told me I have a transmitter in the body, which they intend to remove. They were saying that I was already transmitting stuff. I think at this point, there was too much activity in social media. That's what I would assume. And they were one to clear. So I didn't know where we were. So I could hear them doing that. Then we hit a bump. So the bump, I think the hit on the bump was too strong because my blindfolds went up, not completely, but went up. So these guys actually thought I had seen them. So at that point now, they put their fingers into my eyes, almost like instinctively, both of them on this side. And that's, I think, the point that brought the bleeding. Because now they said, "Hautawahi tuona tena." hautawaiona tena kama umetuona, and they kept doing it. And also now they came to my fingers. They said, you will not blog about this, and now they took the hammer again and they were doing it. But at that point there was another voice on the radio call. I think at this point the radio call was saying, huyo jamaa mweke pale mko, anywhere there is a lot of pressure. So these guys just took a sharp turn and left me. It was where we were, it was raining. They left me in what looked like a bushy area at the time. And it's from there I had two choices. I could see now the cars that left were two double cabins, a black one and a white stroke silver one.
So you're still tied?
No, at this point they have already
they had untied you, they had removed the handcuffs.
By the time I came back, I didn't have all those things, so I don't know at what point they went out. So, but I'm still blindfolded. So when this guy throws me into the forest, he takes away the blindfolds. I would think it's because of the fingerprints. So they remove them and he goes and tells me, if you scream, we are going to come back and finish you. So anyway, after they leave, I then start walking. It was a very painful walk because I could feel a lot of pain. I get to this junction, some bodas come, of course, because naturally, even when you're driving and you get a naked guy, I mean, you would not stop. Even me, I wouldn't. So I tried to shout and tell them, look guys, you can stand away from me, but just listen to me. So that group of Boda went, then a second one came. So the second one, a guy said, Itumbi nimekuona kwa TV and I know you. So the guy came to me, told me I have a client, let me try and convince that person to leave, then I take you to hospital. But as he went, because of the slight traffic that had been caused, one guy with a car came and told me, I'm Boniface, nakujua, I follow you on Twitter, nataka kukusaidia nikusaidiaje. So I told him, wacha niingie kwa gari, nikwambie. At that time, I didn't care whether it's another second episode of the whole thing I've gone through. I just needed somewhere to sit and be comfortable. So the guy told me, I know you and they know I can't take you to hospital when you're naked. So he took me to his place. He took a bed sheet. No, he actually came with a shirt and a bed sheet. So when I tried to wear the shirt, I couldn't stretch my hand. So I told him, no, forget about this. Let me just throw the bed sheet. Then I told him I just need one thing. I'd left the house without eating anything or nothing. I want a Fanta. That time, that's all I needed. So he got me a Fanta, took the Fanta. Then he asked me which hospital he takes me. I told him the nearest. So he took me to Neema Uhai Hospital. At that point, I asked him, where are we? He told me, we are in Lakisama. So I laughed, actually. All this time, these guys have been in Nairobi with me. I thought they have taken me somewhere in Kakamega Forest or something. And so the guy took me to hospital. I requested him to call the number I had offered of my brother. And after that, everything else went as it went. I have since recorded a statement with IPOA and with DCI.
Okay. Of course, many people have said, Yusuf, the reaction immediately that went on social media, or the conversation we're having today is on the use of social media. Reaction on social media immediately, some people have picked up Dennis Itumbi. We're looking for Dennis Itumbi. Then Dennis Itumbi has been found. He's being taken to hospital. Then the pictures started emerging of Dennis Itumbi now being wheeled into hospital. Of course, now you know, which is the other thing that you always constantly deal with. People saying, very well played, Dennis. Very well played. I mean, that was a beautiful script. You should get an Oscar for all that acting. What do you tell, when you read that and you're in pain, what comes to your mind?
Actually, I engaged with that social media for the first time shortly after hospital because I refused to get a phone in hospital. I wanted to heal. My first reaction was, you mean there was actually somebody who thought I staged the whole of this thing? For what benefit? I wanted to engage them on social media immediately, but something else told me you don't have to. I mean, these are scars. It's pain I felt. I spent on an ICU bed. I'm the one who got the injections. I'm the one who went through the pain. I'm the one who paid. I went through a period of pain and trauma. So I don't need to explain to anyone about what actually I experienced.
Well, I'll tell you what the detractors would answer you. It's a small price to pay. It's just an arm and a leg for a political campaign where you're there. You are running a political campaign on digital platforms. The people we saw coming to visit you immediately are the people from your side of the political divide. UDA politicians, Hustler Nation and all. So, I mean, the accusation here is that you're using all these things just to propel a political messaging.
We're in a better place, Latif. If we have moved from people doubting to a place that it's a small price to pay, brilliant. It's a good thing.
Is it a small price to pay?
Of course it isn't. To many people, political rise needs drama. It doesn't. It just needs strategy and a little thought. And you see, Latif, what I have never said in public is that I am not doing political campaigns in Kenya only. I've done a political campaign in Tanzania for the opposition there when Lowassa was head of Chadema. I've done a political campaign in Malawi. I've done a political campaign in Namibia. And I've done a political campaign in Nigeria. Why I couldn't say that in the past is because I was in State House. And you see, the conflict of at the time would have been, why are you doing a campaign for a foreign nation when you're already working for State House? So if it is something I wanted political payback, I would have gotten it in Malawi. I would have gotten it in Nigeria.
Sure. Dennis, do you see a direct correlation between what you blog on, what you comment on, the campaigns that you ran in the country, and what happened to you?
Absolutely. I mean, by the time the abduction happened, I was running something against the IG of police. His son, who was drunk driving at the time, according to my sources, and no one has come out to say that's not true. Or he was driving drunk, drove off the road, hit a woman, and then flew off the bypass and hit two boda guys who then died. So I was running a whole campaign around that and asking, why has this guy not been charged? Today, as I speak at Kenya's biggest show, that guy has not been charged in court. The two boda riders have been buried. The woman who was hit is still struggling to pay a bill in hospital. I mean, it is completely unfair.
I hear you, and with all due respect, you're not the only person who asks questions in the public eye in terms of what's happening with government. Why would they come after you?
On that issue, I was alone, by the way. I mean, on that issue, I persistently put it alone. And that's one. Two, because you asked about a series of things that I was doing at the time.
Right.
There was a special unit set up at KRA to go after business people who support the Deputy President, William Ruto. I put it in public. The person who is in charge, is called Mushemi, kept calling. And when I did not pick, he called my friends. In fact, we have WhatsApp messages which he did severally saying, please remove that post because it's going to make my life and work harder. That unit is headed by the National Intelligence Service. And the guy who heads it is from NIS. That again was done through the Hustler National Intelligence Bureau, which was specifically around me. So when I say about these campaigns, they are actually personal and individualized. And so there was motive for anyone to think, yes, if you silence that guy, these things stop. What they do not understand is that whereas I'm the one who expresses, I have a very serious team of young people who actually do the research, who go for the sources. I am just their face. So even if you remove Dennis Itumbi, there will be 100 other Dennis Itumbis who will do the same thing. So it's a waste of time.
It's like you're saying it's like little heads that will just continue or the same thing. Is there any kind of personal vendetta in what you do?
I wouldn't have any personal vendetta. My only motivation is what I would call system facts. As long as it's factual, is it true, then I run with it.
Dennis, if I hear you correctly, there are two things here. What you've mentioned as having been said by your abductors, and the suggestion or the mention that there is a certain Mkubwa whose views you must align yours with, and then this campaign which seemed to have targeted a relation of the IG, and the persistent mention of an incident that occurred and the aftermath. So, do I hear you to be saying that the two are related, and that because you say that your abductors were rogue policemen, and the IG is not the IG of the Coffee Board of Kenya, he's the IG of the police force, that the two are related?
Absolutely. I'm actually saying, just to put it a bit more plainly, that in my list of suspects of who commandeered the event, that number 3 is the DCI stroke, who I call the Lamada PS Kebichot Internal Security. Second in my list of suspects, and this is my personal opinion, not spies, so that then you don't get people coming here with lawsuits. At number 2 in my list of suspects is the KRA Special Unit on Taxes that is headed by Mr. Mushemi. And my main suspect is the IG of Police. And why the IG of Police specifically? This Commander 1 logistics that they kept calling on the radio call of police is actually the one that was deployed at the scene of this accident to clear the scene. In fact, police say it is police officers, including OCPDs, have told me directly that this logistics team is used to clean up stuff for the IG of police. You remember Alcoblo? Alcoblo in this country was removed because of the same son of the IG. He was arrested because he was found to have he was found to be drunk driving, and was arrested and put at Langata. And that incident, immediately after he was removed, there was a statement from the IG saying Alcoblo should not be used. I mean, there's been misuse, and unless there are people who are courageous to say it, even when it's not
But
popular.
Dennis, the issue of the Alcoblo, there were very many people who took that case to court, and there were court pronouncements on the same. So
Actually-
yes.
Actually, there was no decision at the time. Remember, there was a court decision which
You're
was
talking about
appealed
an
by
earlier
the
time.
Yes, that's an earlier time. This is after it came back out of a court decision at the Court of Appeal. It was stopped by the IG of police. If you go back to your archives, you find the statement that came. And speak to police. I mean, you have a beautiful newsroom with intelligent people here and good reporters. And in the current media scene, the standard is actually very high on proper investigative and in-depth reporting as opposed to other papers. And I'm not saying that because I'm in the standard, it's the truth. If we engage them and to speak to police because they have police contacts, you'll find the same sentiment that the Alcoblo was kicked out shortly after that incident.
You know, one of the things that perhaps is easy to say, and we usually mention this show, that when we hear people's name mentioned directly, and we thank you for being forthright, we will look for an opportunity to call them so that they can also tell us what it is their views are on this particular subject.
Fantastic.
But the other thing that you mentioned was that you believe that it had to do with a position you have, a political interest that you lean towards, and a certain political personality you support.
That's true. I mean, why I mentioned the Lamada PS Kibicho is because I was arrested in 2019. And the issue then was that I had claimed that there was a meeting of senior government officials to plan for the assassination of the deputy president. When I went to court, the first thing I did on my arraignment was to produce a video in court. And what did they do? They applied for that video not to be played. If they were interested in the truth, then they would have allowed me to play the video in court and settle the issue. I am still hoping, because we are almost at the tail end of this thing, that they will allow me to play the video in court. Because I was not claiming. I have the video, I have the evidence that the PS Kibicho stood in that meeting and said that we would stop the deputy president using all means, including stopping him like we did to the late Internal Security Minister, George Saitoti. I am not composing it. It's on video.
It has not been admitted in court.
Yes, the court gave orders.
All right.
For us not to play it.
Why?
The court, because they said that can be used in my defense case. So we are almost there, and it shall be played. Beyond that, I have two affidavits since then of two people who attended the meeting at Lamada, who have put it on sworn affidavit saying exactly what happened, including minuting it. So at the appropriate time, we will give those details. So from the question you're asking, yes, I have a firm position, but it is backed up by facts, because I've also gone through not only journalism training, but journalism practice, and I value facts. In fact, all my social media life has been informed by factual information. Like every other publication, sometimes I get it wrong. And when I get it wrong, like any other publication, I admit, I apologize, and I withdraw. But on this one, I have not, because it's true. By the way, they told us, and if you go back to the Standard had a very big headline that FBI has been brought to investigate the matter. When we went to court on cross-examination, we asked the DCI investigating officer, was FBI here? And the answer was a clear no. When we went to court, one of the main witnesses in the case was PS Karanja Kibicho. When he was called in court, he said he has nothing to say. So, I mean, these are factual things. Only that our media also needs to learn about day two reporting, especially on court matters. Court matters are dramatic when people are arrested, if it's Tabitha of Keroche or Humphrey Karaoke of the Wines and Spirits. It is very dramatic during that arrest. But when things go to the second level, we forget about them. Day two reporting is very poor in Kenyan media.
Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room. Our guest this morning is Dennis Itumbi, political strategist and what farmer again?
Passion fruit farmer.
Passion fruit farmer. We are talking about using social media, especially for the campaigns, the good, the bad, the ugly side of social media used during political campaigns. This is what we're discussing. Let's take this quick break, take a look at the traffic and the weather. We'll be back shortly. Conversation continues with our guest, Dennis Itumbi, political strategist and farmer, who is currently focusing on passion. Because previously, this man has told us about pig farming, I don't know what. So pigs, maybe it's not the season.
The season for pigs.
It's not the season
Right.
for pigs. Okay. We're talking about using social media, for campaigns or during campaigns, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You have done this for many years and for various campaigns. You've told us you were involved in the TNA URP Jubilee Coalition campaigns in 2012, 2013. You are involved in the 2017 Jubilee campaigns. You have also done campaigns in Tanzania, in Nigeria, in where else? Malawi. Where else? Namibia and Nigeria. Okay. So would you say, Dennis, that there are people, including yourself, and you don't have to tell us which examples if you just say yes, where social media is basically used to manipulate views of the people, where a certain narrative is created on social media, and then you use that platform, or the social media platforms, to propagate that narrative, knowing full well what you're trying to, it's not 100% factual, but you know very well that what you're doing. And then you use the knowledge of social media, herein insert 32 bloggers, etc., to propagate some information.
I've never shied away from saying that I have had 35 bloggers. What is the problem of creating 35 jobs for young people? That's one. Second, creation of narratives, that is the purpose of politics. You have to create a narrative that you believe in, a story, an issue.
Must you believe in it?
Yeah, that you believe in, yes. I mean,
I
started by saying I have always done factual stuff. So a factual narrative, yes, I have run many campaigns on factual narratives. None that I regret.
Are there those that run campaigns that you can see clearly this is not factual?
Maybe I wouldn't point out that. What I would say is, yes, a report released around early this year, Twitter itself admitted that they have 11.7 million fake accounts or pseudo accounts. The problem is, most of us, I'm sure even you, when you're getting on Twitter, you didn't read the terms and use of Twitter. You just ticked so that you can get your account in first. One of the terms of use of Twitter is actually that you're allowed to create a parody account. So there's nothing wrong with creating those parody accounts. So if you're asking whether parody accounts have been created, yes. But those parody accounts are allowed by Twitter. So it's just using the platform to the full. I mean, when I came to Spice FM...
So the truth is in admitting that they are parody accounts, but parody by its very nature doesn't necessarily mean that it's based on truth.
It is actually, because you admit. That's why I've said you haven't read the terms of use. The terms of use clearly state you have a parody that clearly states it's a parody. So there's no problem.
One that clearly states it's a parody.
Yes.
But one that does not clearly state it's a parody, then that's a problem.
That's a problem.
So when you
especially when there's a clause there, I think it's clause 8.1 of the Twitter terms of use clearly states that if I create a parody of Eric Creative and pretend to be Eric Creative, as long as I do not declare and Eric Creative as an issue, then that's a problem.
Yep.
But if I create a parody of, I'm seeing Link Jr. on KTN on the TV here, and that Link Jr. doesn't exist, I'm the one who has created them online and I've given them a life, there's nothing wrong. So in terms of, it's just a strategy. Like when I came to Spice FM, I sat on some beautiful leather seats outside the studio. It is just a process towards that, which is not illegal. It is legal. So, I mean, use of social media, you cannot fault people for reading their terms of use and using social media well.
So Dennis Itumbi can create 35 different accounts as long as he's not impersonating anybody.
Fantastic. And it's allowed by Twitter.
And Dennis Itumbi can then use those 35 to tweet, retweet, comment and all on one particular post, which then games the system. Because when it goes to Twitter, Twitter sees these are 35 people who are having a similar conversation. So let's elevate this conversation because it appears to be gaining traction. Is that a problem according to the community guidelines of these platforms?
Absolutely not. I mean, even this media house has those accounts. I can point to you next time when you call me, you tell me to come up with your own strategy on what you're doing on your social media. And by the way, again, And it has been proven on other.
We don't have fake accounts.
It's not fake accounts. That's the problem.
We
That's
don't
the problem.
We don't have multiple accounts created by Spice FM that keep retweeting
push
what
a
Spice
particular
FM is
narrative.
actually pushing.
But you engage people to run particular narratives in the standard media groups where those people who are engaged have those accounts.
The
Same
official
mistake.
accounts of Spice FM, yes,
Yes.
but
So-
not other accounts.
But you engage people in the standard media group. And if, I mean, if you give me the permission after this, I'll go and tweet them out if you want me to prove to you. Standard media group has engaged influencers to push positive campaigns. And those influencers who have been engaged have those accounts that they create to be able to make themselves influencers and make a business. It is a business, Latif.
There are community guidelines for these platforms.
Fantastic.
And among the things that it'll say
I'm
on
not
these
saying-
community guidelines is you do not do something like that because you're gaming the system.
No,
You're trying to skew the algorithm.
What Twitter did, they filtered out accounts that were used to put narratives that were not true. And you remember most of the influencers in Kenya lost their numbers.
Yep.
Ask yourself why those who have large numbers now did not lose or have not lost. And that process is now monthly. They weed out those. Ask yourself why Twitter has not done it. Twitter has gone further, and Facebook also has gone further and zeroed down devices. So that if you have a laptop, a mobile phone, an iPad, you cannot use them multiple to register more than one account. It has gone further to try and make sure that these accounts are active and they're pushing a certain thing. I mean, if I have an account for passion fruit farmer, I have an account for pig farmer, and I have an account for Dennis Itumbi, there's nothing wrong.
Sure. It's the thing that you're using these accounts to say.
Fantastic.
The messages
Yeah.
that are coming out on those accounts. And by virtue of the fact that these other individuals, pseudo or otherwise, are saying certain things, and there's a particular narrative then that is being pushed by them to appear as though this is public sentiment, where it couldn't be, because what you're doing then is influencing the way people think about a certain thing. And in this, are you saying there's nothing wrong with that? Because you can have so many accounts in terms of numbers, does it then now give you the right to say some of the things that you're saying using these other individuals or accounts? Let's pretend that they don't have people behind them.
The right, yes, is supplied by the terms of use of Twitter. Is it okay to drive a certain narrative? Yes. I don't quite get the problem there. I mean, I want to say the best candidate to vote for is Eric Ratif for president. What's the problem of having as many accounts say that? I don't see where the problem is.
You've actually you
If
have
the same
explained.
IP address has 17 accounts that are saying the same exact same thing, surely, Dennis.
No, if it's copy and paste, you are just saying Eric Ratif president because he's watching TV.
Yes.
And all those 17 accounts are saying that.
Yes.
That is manipulated posting.
There we go.
But
But you
if
can-
the 17 of them are engaging on a topic, I sincerely do not see the issue. By the way, people have created, are engaging. There's an app now created. Even Twitter polls, you can influence how people vote. So, I mean,
What is the reach of social media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook? What is the reach that it has in Kenya?
okay, so the last I checked, I think there's some statistics we'll open up before we finish. But last I checked, Facebook is the biggest in Kenya. Then, surprisingly, YouTube is second. Instagram has edged out Twitter to third. And now Twitter is at number 4. The others follow.
All right. How profound is this reach in rural Kenya?
Absolutely. I mean, I have you see what happened with the concept of metaverse and combination of WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram, for instance, is that then the reach has been amplified. So if you tweet from Spice FM, they take a screenshot because not the reach. What you're asking about is the reach of the smartphone. But once
No.
you take a
No, that's not what I'm asking.
yeah, because you see Facebook. Why I think that is what you're asking is because you see, for you to do effective Facebook, you have to have a
Smart
smartphone.
device.
So the device is as important as the platform. So people take the screenshot. I am in a village group. I'm in a WhatsApp group of my village church. So in terms of reach in the rural areas, Facebook has gotten there. Twitter is mostly up to around 2020 when you did a good survey on Twitter. It's mostly an urban conversation.
What's the percentage of the reach? If I believe everything I read, you are vying for a certain post.
Now that's now I think at some point you'll ask me about fake news because that is actually
no.
not true.
I'm just asking
Yeah.
if indeed you are vying for a particular post.
No.
You're not.
Yes.
The larger population in this country happens to be in a rural area. That's really what I was asking.
Yes.
So when we talk penetration, I'm interested in percentages, because if indeed via the smartphone or via whatever means you are able to reach people, and the vast majority of our people are still in the rural areas, that's the question I'm actually asking.
Yeah. So the reach is actually 88% for Facebook. Partly because Kabambe phones that are coming in the new generation have Facebook. They have managed to integrate Facebook. What I was trying to tell you is it does not correlate with smartphone penetration, which is at 60% as we speak. So in terms of the rural areas effect of social media, it is not, what has happened is even information, like now this show is informed by social media and is being heard in the rural areas. So the integration of the entire media spectrum has made social media get the reach that it would not have had otherwise because of internet penetration into the rural areas. But because of the integration with that, even presenters doing their morning shows or their afternoon shows are also reliant on their social media to craft their messaging and their topics, then has given it a wider reach. Yeah.
So very many people are actually now able to access information on various social media platforms. And in fact, I've seen even a classification where WhatsApp is also classified as social media, which is part of the metaverse and the giant Facebook metaverse. So let's talk now the politics of it. Is this what you people are doing? You are in the William Ruto campaign, Hustler Nation. Yeah. Is this what you are doing, using a lot more of your social media to reach the people? If you look at previous campaigns that you've handled, starting with 2013 to 2017 to now 2022, would you say you're reducing the percentage that you're using for legacy media and increasing your percentage of use for social media?
That's a very interesting question because I've received a lot of calls from mainstream media sales on advertising. And I can tell you from Spice FM that campaign advertising, at least from where we sit, will significantly go down for this campaign. Very giantly, significantly. I'm talking of where the spend in 2013 for media was around in between 300 to 1 billion for legacy media advertisement. In this election, it will be under 10 million. Partly because you've noticed, and that's I think what you're also asking on the reach of social media, that you can actually do events without legacy media or advertising. I mean, we have tried. Last weekend, we were launching a youth movement called Radical in Limuru. We didn't do any advertising. We didn't do any media show or interview to publicize it. It was purely social media. And the place in Limuru was full with more than 3,000 plus people. Tells you that there is a place for digital democracy. And the digital democracy in 2013 was mainly pushed through churches. So events in churches, because I think of the prayer meetings at the time and the reaction from the opposition at the time. In 2017, it was a social media election because most of the conversation happened there. But in 2022, I think it's a video election. If you look at that, YouTube is at number 2 and Instagram is at number 3 and TikTok is quickly coming up. It is largely a video election. So, I mean, if anyone is doing a digital strategy for any politician now, the investment should be on a video editor and a cameraman.
So is there a need then for some regulation to get into that space? Because you see on legacy media, there are things that you will not air without knowing that the Communications Authority is breathing down on you, or even the Media Council of Kenya. But on social media, you go, you create a Facebook page today, you live stream an event, you say whatever you want to say, cut that up, you share the information and videos on social media without checks. Is there a need to actually regulate this space?
I think that's where now, I got in trouble when I worked in State House for saying we needed some form of regulation for this space, which I stand with. It is not regulation from outside. We need self-regulation. Just like the media is not regulated, it is self-regulation. We need some form of self-regulation by social media users, bloggers, innovators coming together and creating a council backed by law, because the media regulation is backed by the Media Act. Lawyers are backed by LSK. Engineers are backed by a regulation through the engineers' professional body. medics have a KPM due. Bloggers will not survive for long, and digital users will not survive for long without a form of regulation. And regulation is not bad. It also empowers. I mean, you also get some money pumped in. People can do projects. You can now diversify. You can go do climate change and get some 10 people who are sponsored to actually go and look at climate change and sell it on social media. Regulation also brings you representation, so that if you're arrested, there is legal representation and stuff like that. So I think regulation is not bad, but it needs to be self-regulation.
Sure. And also regulation then comes with saying that folks need to bear responsibility for some of the things that they say. So Dennis, do you think then that folks need to be a little bit more careful, especially politically, because it's such a huge space, this social media, and previously people have been allowed to basically get away with murder. Now, when we're looking at political messaging, don't you think that those who are the originators of this content need to be really, really careful about some of the things they say and the narratives that are being pushed out?
I cannot agree more. I fully endorse your statement, even if put as a question. I remove the question mark and adopt your statement.
As said.
Okay.
Okay. Now we have the campaigns that we are seeing. All right. We are seeing the campaign, William Ruto campaign, the Azimio campaign. This information that is coming out of the deputy president's trip to America. Did the deputy president go to the White House? Did he not go to the White House? Did he? All this is happening on social media. How do you counter this with the truth? Because we actually, at some point, you get confused. Is the DP going to the White House? Is he not going to the White House? Has he gone to some other building, the Eisenhower building, or is it? Where has the DP been?
When I came to Standard Media Group, actually, because of traffic, I jumped out of my car and got into a border. When I got to Standard Media Group, as I was coming up, the radio showed me, kept telling me, this is the editorial section. When I got here, I was told this is Vibes Radio. I was shown another station here. I think it's
called Berur.
Berur, a Kalenjin station.
Yep.
And then I was shown Spice FM. So was I in Standard Media Group or not?
Oh, for crying out loud, Dennis.
I was in Standard Media Group.
Right? Yes, you are.
Okay.
So in the event anyone then doubts whether the deputy president was in White, I worked in State House just before I come to that. I worked in State House. There is a cabinet office in State House. Then there is PUAS, which is the First Lady's office. It's a whole thing about, on 1 acre. There is a staff office. It's called Nakumat. If you
Why?
if you want it, you get it, because all the staff are there,
everybody's
the
there.
accountants or whatever. So if you want anything pushed, you go to Nakumat. So once you get into those gates, are you in State House or not? So my answer to that is this: anyone who doubts that the deputy president was in White House, because I really find it a convoluted argument or discussion. So if anyone doubts, I think White House has a Twitter account. They can ask, and if they can't, I will try and get the number of their press office, because I think it's public. Then people can place a call. Especially journalists should be able to place a call and find out from White House, as opposed to us, because whatever we say.
So in which room did the deputy president go to? Did he go to meet with the president in the West Wing? Did he go to the East Wing? Where did he go?
Or did he go to Vibes?
Did he go to Vibe, the Rur?
He met the National Security Council. Other is in our building, which White House has tweeted. Actually, they tweeted 2 days ago. The White House Twitter account tweeted saying that the Eisenhower building, there was a meeting there for African staff or something like that. And they were basically saying, look, this is White House. That is the essence of that tweet.
Okay.
So unless there is any other doubt, and as I said, I want us to go back to the fact that when you go to your house, it is your house. Whether you go to the bedroom, you go to the table room, you go to the whatever kitchen, it is your house.
Okay, so he was in the White House.
Yes.
The deputy president has gone there to talk about, democracy is on trial in this country, the way things are going, democracy is on trial. This is the person who campaigned and won in 2 elections. Okay, 3 elections. Okay, between 2013 and December 2017. Why would he say that democracy is on trial?
Okay.
When he has been democratically elected, when he says he's been democratically elected as the deputy president.
First, quick correction: he has campaigned and won elections since 1997 without losing any, except the referendum.
Right.
Okay.
Second, I actually in Vibes area, I was checking. Did the deputy president actually say democracy was on trial? No, he didn't. It's a creation of the media. If you go back to what was written and you go to the open quotes. At no point did he say that. But he said that there is a deliberate effort to push certain candidates to win the elections and manipulate the organizations that run those elections. Not IEBC, but for instance, the Ministry of Interior that has police, but who then intimidate candidates. As we speak today, a guy called Mukunji has in Embu, who is winning the Manyata seat on a UDA ticket, has been summoned by CS Munya, PS Kibicho, and what are they telling him? They give him 10 million shillings, he shifts to Jubilee, and if he doesn't, they give him a KRA letter, which they actually give him on the table. That is the manipulation he's talking about. A system manipulation of our candidates for the election. In fact, the deputy president in Embu last year said, and he still stands by that, that even if you are to put Oburu Odinga as the chair of IEBC, would have no problem. As late as yesterday, as when he was meeting diaspora in London, he repeated the same thing. Do I look like a person, that's the deputy president, do I look like a person whose votes can be stolen?
Absolutely. How do people whose votes can be stolen look like?
Let me read verbatim what he was quoted as having said. In fact, the biggest issue that is on the ballot is the democracy of our nation and whether we truly have the opportunity to make free choices devoid of blackmail, threats, and intimidation.
Why is rigging there? Why is democracy on trial there?
The biggest issue that is on the ballot is the democracy of our nation.
Yes. You see, when
So
Raila
you want to say
Odinga...
issue is not trial.
Yeah, when Raila Odinga wanted to say democracy on trial, he said democracy on trial. So you see what is happening, because there was a headline, I think it's today or yesterday, I think it was actually the Standard, or is it today actually, where they say now Ruto sounds like
Ruto is the opposition
is
and
the
Raila
Raila
is
of
the
yesterday.
government.
So you see, by trying to get that phrase in exactly that form, is linking it up to Raila Odinga, which is not what he said. Intimidation, that's what I've told you. I mean,
The quote
I've been
actually on
abducted.
the headline on democracy on trial was a star headline last week.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. I know. I mean, even the Standard, I think on the kicker,
the issue on the ballot is democracy. I mean, translate it however you want to translate it. What's the logical translation of that?
Yeah, I'm about
the biggest issue that is on the ballot
democracy is
this
being
year is
circumvented.
democracy.
Yes, and as I started by saying, he was addressing the issues of blackmail, intimidation, and threats, which are on the open court. And blackmail and intimidation is right here in front of you.
Okay.
People are telling you to align to the bosses, whoever the boss is. I've told you candidates are being called and offered money and being told if you don't, we give you KRA letters. So it has been there. So, yeah.
Dennis, you'll come again. We'll continue this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us on Kenya's biggest conversation. City, tell us the proverb as we go.
When the stomach gets full, it tells me to sing.
When the stomach gets full, it tells me to sing.
Yes.
Can City sing?
Oh, brilliantly. Here at 6 a.m.
Feel his stomach, my friend. Feel his stomach.